Hello again, folks. Welcome to Throwback Cinema. I am your host, the Gothic Storyteller. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful evening. Um, we're 17 days away from Christmas, which also means we're 24 days away from the end of the year? Yeah, right around there, 24, 23. It's somewhere there. We're we're somewhere in that congruent wave. Um, I really need to kind of up the brightness on this because I noticed it in other videos and everything. I just seem to kind of be melting almost into the backdrop, almost like you guys can't see me. So let's just up that a little bit. You guys are gonna actually see legit how extremely pale I am. I also gotta remember to turn on these blue lights underneath here. But welcome in, folks. Welcome in. Today we have quite a bit to cover. I don't really feel like it's such a packed episode. Because I have like a few things to discuss, and then we're gonna get on to our two films today. But first off, um, today's episode we are gonna cover two dramedies. That's a drama comedy for those that are wondering. We're covering two films that I feel are, I guess you could say, essential watching. I was gonna say reading, essential reading. Yeah, sure. I mean, if you go read the screenplay, sure, but essential watching during the holidays. As much as when we think of the holidays, we think of the stress that it brings and everything, and we kind of really can't come to terms. I feel like where we're at now, at least where you know what? Let's speak just for me personally at this moment because I know other people it's different, but for me it really gets hard during the holidays to really just get happy for the holidays. A lot of the reasons why I celebrate it are kind of like non-existent. The family stuff that we would do over with my grandmother ever since losing them and everything. The holidays feel very different. Um, just kind of growing up and kind of having it where maybe some people kind of mock you for believing in Santa Claus. I'm one of those guys that I unabashedly like. I love Santa. I still believe in Santa Claus. I still believe in that magic. It's probably the last vestige of magic that's actually exists in this world today. Um, but either way, either way, um, so wrapping around to what we're talking about, we're covering unconventional horror, not horror, unconventional holiday films for this because I know not everyone celebrates Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or any of those. Happy solstice, happy holidays to whomever. So I kind of feel like these two films, you don't have to be fans of either holiday that is around here. Like you could just straight up be like, I don't like the holidays. These films, I think, are films that were made for this time that I feel are definitely made for people like us, for people like me, who struggled to kind of keep that holiday cheer in their heart. To be honest, this year I struggled with the Halloween cheer in my heart, and November was November. That was the longest year possible. But either way, we got to sit there. We got to get on to our first our first little thing to go through. So we actually had happen a couple of days. There was the passing of Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, who was best known as Shang Tsung in the Mortal Kombat movie in the 90s, the 1995 one. I believe they used him in stock footage for Annihilation. Yes, I believe, because he was at the beginning during the whole recap of the last film. Um, but I do want to sit there and I do want to say something on Mr. Tagawa. Um, First off, this man could play the best villain and then be the sweetest guy in like two different movies, and you're just like, wow, he has that range that he's just so phenomenal. But I remember this man giving me nightmares because of Mortal Kombat, because of of he could play a bad guy very well, and just pointing at the screen. at the beginning of Mortal Kombat, after he has practically defeated Liu Kang's um, brother, that he has defeated him, and he's kind of pointing directly at us, and he's like, "Your brother's soul is mine." I don't care who you are. That kind of sticks with you and everything as a child watching that. It sticks to you. Just him pointing his finger directly right at you. Um, it sticks. And I was looking at his filmography after his passing, because I do that with most of the people that we've lost. I look at the filmography and look at the films that I most definitely have watched or unconsciously watched. Like, yeah, I've watched so many films in my life that when people are like, "Have you seen this?" Most of the time, it's probably a like, I need some type of basis. Maybe I have seen this. If I have, it's probably been years and years ago. So, while it wasn't his first feature film, this first big one, at least here in the U.S., Cary played. Cary was first off uncredited, but he played a background extra called Wing Kong Man in Big Trouble in Little China. Uh, for one, I love John Carpenter and everything, and to find out that he was in the background, I'm like, what? This is like one of my favorite freaking films. And how have I missed a cameo from, Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa? And looking more into his filmography, the man has spanned after that. He's had small roles in film and television here in the U.S. He was in Twins. He was in the TV show Superboy and Moonlighting with Bruce Willis of all people. He was in there. He played one of the henchmen Quang in License to Kill, which was the final Timothy Dalton James Bond film. Which, like, little side thing, Timothy Dalton was screwed. He was a perfect Bond in my estimation. The Bonds that we have already had, we have had a really, really good string from Sean Connery, and then you have the tongue-in-cheek, though I still like these tongue-in-cheek films from the Roger Moore series and everything. And then you get Timothy Dalton, you get super serious. Bond's not gonna sit there and take shit. How do people not like that? Well, they didn't like it. They wanted Bond to be fun, and so then they, after those two films, they brought in Pierce Brosnan to kind of make it fun again. And then everyone went cynical and were like, Daniel Craig is the best one. And I was like, bitch, I was there when Timothy Dalton, well, I wasn't born. But as a kid, I remember watching The Living Daylights and A License to Kill. License to Kill is pretty dark. It's a pretty dark film and everything. And I love The Living Daylights too. So I kind of think like those were, just wonderful Bond films. If you guys have slept on those films, like, and if you love the Daniel Craig, go watch this. But anyway, and then we would finally come to 1995 when Mr. Tagawa would do the role of Shang Tsung, the evil sorcerer and shapeshifter in Mortal Kombat. This is the role that I think most of us all remember Mr. Tagawa from. It's the most iconic. The man was like completely swollen. I don't know if he actually did a lot of his martial arts stuff like what the actor Robin Shaw did of Liu Kang, who played Liu Kang and everything. If so, it adds to the magic. They did well. They did well. I enjoy it. It's one of those, I don't even want to sit there and say it's a guilty pleasure, because I don't really sit there and think that movie is bad. I think the acting of everyone on there, even of I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he played Raiden and in Mortal Kombat, Christopher Lambert. Like, even though Christopher Lambert kind of felt like sometimes he reeled in one hell of a role, Christopher did his role very well. But I think a lot of the film's success is directly on its villain. He, even without even saying anything, just sitting down in the chair and watching the tournament unfold is menacing. He's learning his opponents, and Tagawa understood the assignment, and he did it great. After this film, he would do so many other projects. He was in The Phantom. I think that came out the following year after Mortal Kombat. He did John Carpenter's Vampires, so it's his second contribution to John Carpenter's filmography. Johnny Tsunami and Johnny Capahala for your Disney fan films and everything. He was in Pearl Harbor. He was in Memoirs of a Geisha. He was in the early Marvel films of Elektra. He played Kazukiya. No. What? Ah, crap. He's kind of almost like the overarching villain of the Tekken franchise, but he's like Grandpa. He played Grandpa practically. It's Jesus Christ. I cannot believe I am blanking on his character name. Heihachi Mishima. There we go. I always remember it was a mouthful. But he was the grandfather to Gen Kazama. And I'm trying to think what's the other one, because I cannot remember who played the dad. Kazuya Mishima. There you go. So Kazuya. That's the one. I'm thinking of Okada, the actual wrestler from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Kazuchiya Okada. If I fucked that up for any wrestling fans watching, please correct me. But yeah, he did that. He did 47 Ronin. So as much as he was kind of typecast, it's like, wow, like there's so many of these films I've seen that he's been in it. At first I thought when I saw The Phantom, I was like, please don't tell me they made him play Genghis Khan. And no, I think he was a descendant of the Khan. But he was not the main villain. But yeah, I absolutely love and adore what this man did, and my condolences to his family, and just to thank you, Mr. Tagawa, for the memories that you have bestowed to us as movie fans, and those that love to sit there and watch films that you were a part of, regardless if you were a diehard fan and you watched it just for him, or you watched it for some other reasons and he was still there and he added his own charm and grace and charisma to the film. And it's probably, chances are 9 times out of 10, you probably watch those movies he's in, you're like, yeah, no, I remember him. My eye was always on him. And he's one of the very few Japanese actors, I believe. I could be wrong and everything. I actually yeah, Japanese. Okay, so I did get it right. He's one of the very few Japanese actors that I feel that actually has that charisma to the point that when he's on screen, you watch and you listen, because you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know if he's gonna flip shit up, or is he gonna, be the mentor-y kind of figure. Like I think like in the Disney Channel movies. It's been a while since I've seen those, so take them as you wish. We are going to move on to our next topic. And our next topic is last night I ended up dropping a day early the Hammer horror pilot titled The Baron Hammer's Frankenstein. I had so much fun editing this, even though it took me a while to kick myself in the ass. I wrote draft after draft of this. And apparently you guys were enjoying it. YouTube has this weird thing now with comments and everything. Like, I usually kind of reply maybe about like a day or so later, but I tried to get back to you guys as soon as ever, because it's part of a conversation. And like, yeah, like there was 2 comments left by there. I was grateful for those and everything, that for once someone actually took the time to comment and took the time to watch. So I thank you guys. I cannot wait to churn out more of these episodes. There is a slight, because this was last minute, since I did it yesterday, there has been a slight change in scheduling though, because the next episode will not come out until the final week of January. So I originally had it intended for the 26th of January for the next episode. That date has been pushed back by 2 days. These episodes are going to be dropped on Wednesday nights. Since I will be streaming, I feel like in the future I will be Monday nights live and everything. And so I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up, instead of just having it of, oh hey, I'm going to drop this 2 hours before stream. Go watch it real quick so then we can talk about it. I was like, no, no, that doesn't work for me. So I ended up, this is advertising. This is, I'm advertising that yes, I have a new video out. You should definitely go check it out because I really worked extra hard on there. Um, but yeah, I figured, nope, I'll drop it a day early so that everyone has at least 24 hours to watch it. And then after that, it's all like it's all up in the air and everything. Um, I really, really did enjoy this. This project has like a lot of challenges, and I kind of feel like almost with every project that comes on the series, that there is something new I really, really want to. There is something new that I really want to explore, and okay, so my bad. I thought I actually had images for that and everything, but yeah, no, I thought that I had like I got myself all mixed up again. But there's a lot of challenges with this, and I definitely feel like making the first season just 4 episodes and focusing on 4 very core early films of the Hammer horror stuff. Um, I don't know if I'll go back to the Curse of Frankenstein for any other future videos. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But one of the big new challenges is I really do want to sit there and make longer videos. I think this was just longer just by a few seconds from my Barbastille video. Um, and I think it was way longer in my Garfield video. My Garfield video tanked, and even I felt like, God, I was messing up so much with that Garfield video. But it was all learning curve and everything. And I was also writing the script to this while writing the Garfield one. I learned so much, went through, rewrote everything, um, cut off a lot of excess stuff. And yeah, like I don't feel completely happy with this video, but I feel very content, and it felt very good to get this video out there. It's like, look, this is what I want to do. And I feel like this is the big step and everything. And since you guys are all here, like, you know what? I get to sit there and drop the other 3 videos of what we're covering. So in I was gonna say late July. I'm not making you guys wait that long. In late January, we're covering The Curse of the Werewolf, which is a very kind of controversial film from like the Hammer stuff. It's not. I don't really think you would call it controversial, but probably for its time, it was very controversial. We're going to be covering that. We're going to be also covering The Mummy, and we're going to be covering Horror Dracula. So practically almost every single one of these videos here for the first season are going to have Sir Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing in these films. I cannot wait for it. Horror Dracula was actually supposed to come out this month, and Frankenstein was supposed to come out in November. But I had to push it back. I wanted to make everything look good. I wanted to make it look professional. I've been learning from other YouTubers, style, pacing, editing, figuring out like, how to be good at this. And I definitely sat there and feel like this was a really good first step into that process. At least for me. And woohoo, The Mummy is a great film, believe it or not. So I'm having trouble with The Mummy currently right now, and I actually ended up having to I actually think I have it like right here. I have it right here. I ended up writing down what did I want to do, what did I want to talk about for The Mummy, because with each of these videos I don't want them to be the same roundabout. It's a review or anything. It's like, no, I feel like some of them might turn out to be reviews, but like the Baron Hammer's Frankenstein, my thing was not about reviewing the film. The concept of that video was about looking at what did Hammer do with the character of Dr. Frankenstein, but also the archetype of the mad scientist, which there have been mad scientists in between. And maybe I probably should have inputted that into the video with like kind of how mad scientists were perceived in between Henry Frankenstein and the Baron Victor Frankenstein. Did I say Henry Frankenstein? And then I think I did. I'm sorry. It gets confusing after a while, and I've been reading that damn script for a good solid week, week and a half probably actually, and everything because of all the editing. Um, but you know, I what I wanted to bring out was that what Hammer did, that actually it didn't even make it into the video. There is a book that I am currently reading. I pick up and put it down so freaking much because it's so much information. I have to put it down. Um, but it's the it's how Hammer was willing to sit there and adapt the universal horror stuff, because essentially that's what they're doing, and I figured that's what I can cover first season, is how Hammer adapted a lot of universal monsters and made their own franchises or just their own spins on things. um how did they do it differently? What did they add substance wise? And in the end, like in this video that I mentioned, was that Henry Frankenstein was very, very curious to the point of obsession. And he created what he created and he was afraid of it. But he also understood what he made, and that is very powerful. But he also sees what that power has done. Whereas Peter Cushing's The Baron is more of the, I am willing to push the limits of science. And that's not just, you know, and what his discoveries are, it's the ethics, morals, and everything. He pushes everything. He ends up becoming a monster in the process of all this because he loses his humanity. And funny enough, I kind of feel like the sequels of those Frankenstein films, some of them kind of give him back a bit of humanity. And then because once you reach film number 5, 6, you kind of start losing a lot of the story of the character, and that's when you start getting your reboots, your, you know, alternate whatever, you know. I'm not gonna lie, I think one of the ones out of the Hammer Frankenstein films that I do not like is the Evil Frankenstein. I think it's the weakest. Like, it's the closest to what Universal did with it, but God, I think it's the weakest film of the entire thing. But I find entries like The Revenge of Frankenstein, which comes right after The Curse, and then Frankenstein Created Woman, I find those to be interesting retrospects of what does the Baron do, or what does the Baron do when he is so close to creating another perfect being, and then there is this one guy who is deformed and he gets a second chance at living a normal life and not being looked at as a freak. But things go wrong and it turns even more catastrophic. That's in The Revenge. And then in Frankenstein Created Woman, it's all about the human spirit. It's no longer about transplanting brains and hoping that he's going to create an individual with a very, very smart mind or sharp whatever. It's like, no, it's about trying to sit there and see, can they capture the soul once, you know, the body has died. And apparently there's like that small window of opportunity where the soul is still in there, capturing it and transferring it to another body. What does that do? And what happens when that other body is actually still living or has not processed properly from body to the afterlife? There's spiritualism. There's levels of spiritualism in that film. And I think that's fascinating. And I kind of felt like once they hit that, it was like, oh God, like, what do you do after that? So that's what I find interesting with these films. As much as, yeah, I feel like I can easily just kind of ham it in and just do a movie review, I like to just discuss about these little things of what these filmmakers like to talk about in their films. So that's what you can expect. I do plan to do a legacy video with Dracula because I feel like a lot of people sit there and say that Christopher Lee's Dracula is iconic and whatnot. But I feel like no one really kind of gets like what Christopher Lee really did for that role, and how a lot of other actors have not just taken from Bela Lugosi, who has like made that role iconic, so much is to the point of parody, but it's what Christopher Lee did. And of course, the same thing happens to him too. When you make so many good films, you know, and you play a role so well, you're bound to, excuse me, you're bound to, at this point, just become a caricature or a parody of oneself. And believe it or not, I think Christopher Lee did his best as well. The same thing with Peter Cushing. They did their best with these roles. They took them very seriously, even if like God, even if like the death in the last film, it's like, all right, they're dead for good. But wait, they come back. I was like, how long have they have they stayed dead? Maybe a day. I was like, okay. It was like that guy turned to ash. I don't sit there and see how the hell you're gonna bring this guy back. It's kind of like those far-fetched, like, we're gonna kill them in a very extreme way for a film. Let that be noticed. We're talking about film here, folks. We're gonna kill them in a very extreme way, but then we're gonna bring them back in the sequel. How? That's your job to figure out, not mine. But I want them back. And some of the other later Hammer films, I think they learn not to be a little too extreme, but they give you a satisfying enough conclusion to it. But yeah, I do agree that The Mummy's a great film, but I think The Mummy is the oddball out of all of these films that I've picked, which are all, in a sense, universal classics. But moving on to the next thing, because we're almost halfway through the show. We are going to sit there and talk about our very first film for the Unconventional Holiday Films. And this one, I was lucky enough, I got a chance to watch it because it used to be on Peacock, and then they took it off. Thank you to my buddy Steven. I will do my best, because this is actually, believe it or not, the films I picked are like his favorite holiday films. Like, this is what he watches during the holidays. So I will do my best, Steven, to talk about these films at great lengths, respectively. Yeah, with that, the Holdovers with Alexander Payne, directed by Alexander Payne. And I actually did learn that apparently this film was actually a remake of heard my name, there you are, Steven. I figured, like Candyman, if I say your name 3 damn times, you're just gonna pop up behind me. But the Holdovers is our very first film, and it's actually a most recent film. I figured I would open this discussion with a recent film to drag you guys in, to let you guys know that there are films still made by this, but we are going to close with a classic as well. A grumpy classics professor, a small but troubled student, and a grieving cook are all stuck together in this New England boarding school during Christmas of 1970. It's a very simple premise. Very, very simple. And what I like is throughout this film, as the bodies in the school, kind of shrink. And I don't mean that in a horror film, like someone's running around with an axe and just chopping these boarding school students and staff away. No, everyone else who cannot go home to their families or whatever, they're considered holdovers. And Paul Giamatti, who plays Paul Hunham, he's kind of like the one that's like in charge of everything. We're really only going to focus on these 3 characters, but Paul Giamatti played the lead, Paul Hunham. Angus Tully was played by Dominic Sessa, and Mary Lamb was played by Divine Joy Randolph, who did actually win an Oscar, if I believe so, right, Steven? She won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in this film. I do not think, though, that Paul Giamatti won. I think Paul lost and everything, because I believe also, too, this film, much like Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water, once it kind of came into the Oscar season, it started getting controversy for plagiarism or whatever. Or I could be actually wrong, in this film got attacked with the plagiarism stuff after the Oscars. She won everything that year. She did. And she deserved it, because rewatching this film this morning, it actually had me in tears. We're going to try to sit there and we're going to try to break this down as simple as we can, because everything else kind of intertwines very, very well. So we're going to sit there and we're just going to start. And of course, spoilers will be spoilers will be mentioned and everything. But here we go. We got Dominic Sessa. We're going to start with him. So this is our sad. I think Giamatti only got the Globe and the Critics' Choice. I believe so, because I can't remember who won that year, Steven. Um, God, that's been like, really, actually, it's not been, well, yeah, no, it's been a year, but like, God, that year was like, I don't know, 2024 and 2025 have been a year where my memory is just shot to crap. But Dominic Sessa, the troubled youth, Angus Tully, he is our witty comedy guy. He is our funny but hurt character. He was hoping to be home for Christmas, but he kind of feels pushed away by his mother and her new husband and everything. They're finally having their honeymoon around the season. And totally, I hope you guys did not just hear that straw sound. Oppenheimer stole the Oscar. That's right, because that was the year of Barbenheimer. That was the year of Barbenheimer, where apparently the Netflix guy thinks that Barbie and Oppenheimer would have had the same mass success on Netflix. God, dude's so full of shit. We gotta tackle that another damn day, because later this week, I don't even know if we're gonna have time to have subtopics because of what we're covering. But either way, so yeah, Angus and everything, he's hoping to go home. He misses his family, but his family kind of doesn't really want him around. And so he's stuck there at the school with the most crotchety of curmudgeon professors, who is actually a ancient civilization professor at this boarding school. And this boarding school is kind of like I guess high school age. There are younger kids, so I think it actually does cover all ages, but it's one of those prep ones. Tully is, I think, like on his last streak, because if he gets kicked out of the school, he's forced to go attend I think it's like a Navy Academy or something like that. He has to kind of like go something into what is like a military school. And so he's trying to be on his behavior, but at the same time he's ticked off. He's kind of been cast aside. He doesn't want to be here with a lot of these other people he does not want to be with, especially with Paul Giamatti's character. And throughout the story, we end up peeling labels away that apparently his father had passed away. His mother doesn't really kind of care. She cares more about this new life she's building with the stepdad. So he feels ignored. He feels unwanted. And he keeps butting heads in with Paul Giamatti's character. But as we learned later on throughout, with this rebellious, troubled youth, is that he's actually very, very smart. Maybe a little too smart for his own good. And he definitely challenges a lot in what is in his history professors. He challenges a lot in that man's authority, which I really like. I like it when characters do that, where it's not just them going through their own shit, is that they are challenging the other characters around them and vice versa. Paul challenges Angus and Angus challenges Paul, and Mary challenges both of them. And we'll get to her story there in a bit, but throughout the story, as Tully and Paul are kind of bonding and everything, Tully does take advantage of some of that. We do eventually find out that his father did not die, but his father had a mental breakdown and is essentially kind of like in a mental ward. There's an awful lot throughout this story that you pretty much kind of like learn that, family is not what you're born into, it's what you make it. And that's exactly what I feel is Tully's story. It's about finding family in the most unlikeliest of places, making best in the situation that you have. And I think he has actually two really good surrogate parents in both Paul and Mary. And it's kind of sad that Paul's character kind of, doesn't really stick around towards the end. We'll get to him in a bit, but in the end, by the end of the story, at least for Tully and everything, he learns that he's not really alone. You know, he's actually gone out more, and you know, he pressures to not be stuck in the school, um, and to actually live. And he does. He gets to sit there and see his father. Thank you, Krypton, for the lurk. Oppenheimer stole the Oscar. Okay, lurking and listening during workout, brother. Oh my God, like you're listening to me while working out, you poor soul. It's all like, you know, do an extra 5 more chin ups. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. But that's practically that is the one side of the coin, actually, because believe it or not, I actually do feel like Tully and Paul's story is actually all one, but they have 2 different paths. But when we come up to the crotchety curmudgeon professor, um it's kind of sad. I actually see a bit of myself in there, where it's the I like to be in my own comfort. I don't like to be challenged all too often. I don't really sit there and think that I kind of feel like how Paul, where it's like I know everything. I definitely know I don't know everything. But Paul's character kind of comes off as, well, because he's a professor, as a know-it-all. Um, Paul is disliked by his students and by his associates at the school and everything, and he actually really doesn't care. Um, and we kind of sit there and we learn that, you know, because of his personality and attitude, he's stuck, you know, looking over these kids and everything, these other holdovers. Um, he's stuck looking after him. He doesn't really want to sit there and do it. He's constantly butting heads with Tully, um, constantly telling him and everything, you know, this, like, you know, this is your Rubicon. You do not cross the Rubicon. Um, in such an iconic scene where practically Tully disobeys him, runs into the gym, jumps on this little mini trampoline, and then dislocates its shoulder. And it's such a piece. It's like if you take No and Hilliard and do a complete one. Yeah, I could see that. For those that are wondering who No and Hilliard are, they are our professors. Me and Steven's professors back at AI, back when AI was around. Art Institute, for those that do not know. But yeah, I could sit there and I could see that. You know, I had no clue how much of a free soul Scott No actually was, though. Like, you know, it's very, very wild. But Paul is constantly taunted, challenged. Paul has like a very kind of old school mentality. He started off being a teacher for good reasons and everything, because he really did believe he can make a change, but after a while that's kind of beating him down, and that's kind of what adds to the crotchetiness of him. But there is definitely something within Paul that I feel like I kind of sit there and see it in myself, that you haven't really quite lived. Like he has lived a life, and he definitely sit there and knows that he's in a very highly respected school with a bunch of fucking, I'll say it, white privilege ass kids and everything, who, you know, were born into money. They never really had to sit there and work for it. And so he has to sit there and he has to deal with that type of intolerance. Whereas for him, um, I don't really sit there and know if they ever sit there and say that he came from money. I don't believe he did, but I think he just worked for it. He worked for his opportunity, where some other people were given that opportunity instead of actually working for it and earning it. Um, and so that's kind of like where, even to like his fellow academics, he really only likes a few people. He likes Mary, and he likes one of the, I think it's the dean. Yeah, I think it's like the dean's secretary or something like that. He likes her. Um, and love is a very fickle thing in his life. He's just kind of like learned to just be by himself. And there are wonderful scenes that really do set up a lot of who Paul, not who Paul is, but how Paul sees the world. Even way before you get the iconic scene where he's like, the world is a bitter and complicated place, and it thinks, you know, it feels the same way about me, that Paul has become bitter and complicated with the world. Um, and maybe it's just because he hasn't taken those chances to write a book. It's one of the many things that are constantly brought to him. Hey, why haven't you written a book this entire time you've worked at the school? It's a challenge that he doesn't really sit there and think he can sit there and do. But by the end of it, he has time now to do it. Um, his relationship with love, his relationship with people are definitely challenged. And by the end of the story, um, you could say he's still crotchety, but he's less crotchety. He knows he has found his family because he is alone even during his time, and he'll tell people he's like, "Oh, I'm fine," when he's not fine. But by the end of this movie, which I think it's like 11 days in this, but they skip over a couple of days because he's pretty much he's watched over Angus Tully for like 2 weeks and everything. But he learns how this kid is, and this kid has taught him something, else. He's taught him to live a little, stop living life so much by the extreme rules, um, going as far as getting fired and everything because he stood up for the boy. He didn't want the boy going to the military academy because he believes he is a bright child. And he ends up taking the fall because meeting the mentally, the just not mentally, meeting the full-blown breakdown father, towards the end of the film, has its repercussions. And one of the big things that I really enjoy about this is that Paul Giamatti's character tells Dominic Sessa that men that go to the school do not lie. They are always honest and they tell the truth. And I don't know why I didn't pick up on this earlier, because he always gives totally Dominic Sessa's character shit anytime that he's lied. He's like, "You lied again." And throughout the story, even Paul learns to lie a little bit more easier and kind of learn that really, in all honesty, it's not lying, because telling the truth is sometimes just being honest and everything. And even sometimes you got to bend the truth a little bit, but it's at the end of the day, it's still the truth. You can call it a half truth or whatever, but it's still a truth. And by the end of it, when he saves the boy from going to military school and gives up his job, and then tells the dean, who even he taught that dean, because he's been at the school for so long, he's taught this dean this, that he is the human form of penis cancer. That's going to be right up there with Stone Cold Steve Austin just Stone Cold centering his boss. It's one of those things that I think a lot of people just want to tell their boss is you are penis cancer in human form. And he even goes to sit there and tell him, he's like, I with great experience, that's practically what you are. But if you looked at him earlier in the film, he would never have said that to the dean. He had to kind of learn all of that through Tully, to be honest, even if it means bending the truth a little bit. And that's kind of like their weird little misfit family. I do want to sit there and bring up lastly, though, Joy Divine Randolph's character, Mary Lamb. Yes. They're actually at a church. So it's not just like some prep school. It's like, it's a religious prep school. And her name is Mary Lamb. She is the heart of the story through and through. At the beginning, she's working, and we end up learning that her son had gone to the military, had enlisted, because this is Vietnam. I can't remember off the top of my head when did Vietnam end, but Mary lost her son in the war. And he was happy to enlist because he believed that he was going to go to college on the GI Bill. So he goes, enlists, so he can go to college, get a good life for him and his mom. But we lose him. And so throughout the majority of the film, we are watching a mother who has just recently lost her son. And she had also lost her husband too. And both men never lived past the age of 25. So that just really hurts her. And I love her character progression throughout this story. And I believe this is why she got the Oscar, because as much as I love Tully and Paul's storyline, Mary has probably the best one. And that's when, Mary's going through things. She's going through all the stages of grief. And when it's finally Christmas Day and everyone is acting like a family, Paul, pretty much kind of as like a Christmas, an extra added Christmas gift, whatever they wanted, he'll figure out a way to give it to them. And so Tully wants to go to Boston, which we would find out that's where his father's at. But also too, he just doesn't want to be in that school. And Mary wants to go to Roxbury, where that's where her little sister is at. And her little sister is she looked quite further into her pregnancy. And so as we go through like the whole party where Divine Randolph kind of has like her low point, she breaks down, she gets violent because she's drinking excessively. That's her low point, but her telling Paul and everything that, telling that, you kind of wish that you didn't want to be with a kid on Christmas Eve who has lost his father. It's like, what's wrong with you? I feel like to her, that's like a wake up, because if she continues on, she's going to be just like Paul, but she's also trying to pull Paul out of this mindset. So this is where a lot of the intertwining stuff goes through. I'm trying not to give you guys too much spoilers because I really want you guys to actually experience this film with all of its wonderful glory. Sadly, it's not on Peacock. You're going to have to go rent it, but I watch mine on Amazon Prime. Thank you again, Steven. But, I feel like that was like an awakening for her to break down at that party, and then to see what Paul did to Tully. The moment that Christmas Day came, and then they go and they do their thing, she's left with her sister. She has a gift in store that she tells Tully not to crush, and we see her unpackage that in her baby sister's room, and it's the clothes of her son Curtis, the baby clothes and everything, the little booties, the outfits and everything. It's her way of getting through the grief of losing her son. And funny enough, her going through there, her having the conversations with her sister, it's enough for her to let go and to move on, because she knows that, the gifts that she's going to bear, they're going to go something good. It's nothing is wasteful and everything. She's doing something nice for her family. And then when we get to that iconic dinner scene where Tully is telling, or not Tully, when Paul is telling Tully that you're not going to be your father, who your father is not what you're going to be in. And we do get a little bit of Paul's like background, that apparently I think he did come from an abused home. His father beat him, I guess, into the submission that you are going to be just like, his father. And he fought that tooth and nail. And I definitely sit there and take that personal, because, someone with father issues or daddy issues, as a lot of people, it's like that scene spoke to me a lot, and that was like one of the many crying sessions throughout that film and everything. It's a wonderful film. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. But it just hits a raw nerve in you. And maybe it is just me. I don't know how anyone else feels, but it hits a raw nerve into me. And then Mary shows up, and one of the funny things is that they like ask her like, oh, like, do you want like, like a whiskey or whatever? All she wants is, I think just like a glass of water, or like a Coke. She doesn't want the alcohol. So her going from this mournful woman that is a little crotchety herself, but again, she's a grieving mother, and going through, her low point, finding a whole brand new family, because again, this woman also lost her family as well. Tully and Paul are her family now, and I think even past this film, they're going to stay as family. And it's kind of heartbreaking, because towards the end, when Paul has to leave, it's just her and Tully now, but I like to sit there and think that they stayed in contact, that family did not break up by the end of that film, because she was still there for Tully when Tully was afraid that he was going to get kicked out and all this other stuff. But I love her character. I love her. I love the act that she goes through. It's not this big dramatic, like, I see the light or whatever. Believe it or not, for a film that takes place at a religious prep school, there's very little religious iconography or really even talk about it. Um, I believe that Paul is either agnostic or an atheist. He doesn't believe in God and everything. And he works there because he needs the job. Um, there's so much to cover for this, and we only have so much time. And I'm actually looking at it, and I'm like, crap! I spent so much time talking about Hammer horror and the holdovers that we are going to sit there. We are going to give the last 10 minutes of this show to our final film, uh, which, you know, again, if you haven't seen the holdovers, check it out. This iconic scene alone, right here. This is such an iconic scene. And the same thing here. It's so iconic and it's so wonderful. But we are going to move on over to here. I need to get a little bit better with my transitions. I'm not going to lie to you folks. But we are going to talk about Billy Wilder's The Apartment, where the holdovers is about grief, loneliness, and family. I definitely sit there and feel like this is the film about loneliness. The people like us who are alone and who have no one during the holidays, no fam. I wouldn't sit there and say I don't have no family. Family does its own thing. I just like to be on my own. So I want to just outright state that. I enjoy my peace. And my peace is solitude. You know, I've always been like that. But I'm actually trying to sit there and look for something for later for you guys, because I do want to sit there and share this with you guys. But The Apartment is a drama comedy about an insurance clerk who, in hopes to climb the corporate ladder, allows his superiors to use his apartment for their affairs. He falls in love with an elevator operator, unaware that she is having an affair with the head of personnel. This is another film I had to watch this year. I had a lot of changing in the last month or so. Really, it goes even beyond that I've been changing a lot of things, which is why I'm here on YouTube, because Twitch was not my thing for me, but I also had to say a lot of goodbye to a lot of people that I definitely knew were not going to come over here. Maybe someday we'll see them over here, but until then. But I identify a lot with the film's lead, CC Baxter, played by Jack Lemmon. And if you don't know who Jack Lemmon is, Jack Lemmon, Grumpy Old Men. I feel like that's what our generation, my generation, I'll say that the children of the 90s and in the late 80s, probably even the early 80s, we know Jack London not from these films, but we know him from Grumpy Old Men. And we also know his buddy Walter Matthau, who did Grumpy Old Men with them, but also did Dennis the Menace. So glad that Jack Lemmon did not sit there and get his medication slingshot into his frickin' throat like poor Walter Matthau. But I love these two guys. I love these two guys, and so when I finally gave Billy Wilder a chance in my life, who was the director, it definitely changed me. And this film is definitely a film that speaks to me and changes, and it really kind of makes me sit there and think that, you know, in cinema, almost anything is possible. I kind of really hate where people put limitations on things. But I really kind of wish that we went back to films like this. And The Holdovers is kind of a film like this. You know, this was made back in 1960. And The Holdovers was released 2 years ago. So you have practically almost about 63 years between both films. Just a little over 60 years. Fran Kubrick, who is also in this image right here, is played by the wonderful Shirley MacLaine. For my Western lovers out there, she was in Two Mules for Sister Sarah. Shirley MacLaine does still continue to act and everything. She is a wonderful comedy actress and everything. And I guess you would kind of sit there and see like the big bad of the film. It's kind of weird when it comes to Billy Wilder films, because there's not really any big bad unless you're looking at his noir stuff. But Mr. Sheldrake is played by Fred McMurray, which I actually had to look him up to see, like, have I seen anything in there? He's the original Shaggy Dog, which the Shaggy Dog of my generation that saw the remake, that was Tim Allen. But Fred McMurray, he was in Billy Wilder's film noir Double Indemnity. They've had a constant working relationship since then. He did The Shaggy Dog, The Absent-Minded Professor, Follow Me Boys, The Happiest Millionaire for Disney. And he started as Steve Douglas in the TV series My Three Sons. Um, so he's a very, very iconic actor and everything. Um, but even to me watching these films, I don't grasp everyone because I wasn't born that time and I'm still fairly new to this era. But I think this right here, paired with the Holdovers, is the perfect holiday watch for when you're feeling down, when you're feeling lonely. Uh, CC Baxter is a people pleaser, but he's also trying to climb the corporate ladder without stepping on too many toes. And watching him go from that to someone who is taking so much shit for other people's issues, like even so far as the love interest for him, Shirley MacLaine, you know, when she tries to explain this, that, and the other, and people think he did this to her or did that, and he'll get his ass beat. Um, this man was beaten down constantly throughout this film. And even though he gets exactly what he wants, like he goes from just being this insurance clerk, working down on the 19th floor, that now he's up on the 27th floor. He's like a junior, you know, vice something another. All I remember, it was junior leveled. But he climbs the corporate ladder pretty high. And a lot of these guys are like, well, just remember who brought you here, and we can easily take you back down. And so for him to sit there and to finally gain this, but still kind of be underneath their dog collar, it's very sad. And you want him to sit there and finally stand up and fight for himself. And he kind of finally does. After like already kind of like having like a low point where the woman he loves and everything is practically dating his boss and everything, having the affair with his boss. And even she's starting to find out, you know, that, you know, she's not the first and she won't be the last and everything, that she's just another fling that, you know, it'll go nowhere. And this film definitely takes place a little bit before Christmas, but it's within the Christmas season, but it ends, I believe, on New Year's. And I think one of the big things about this film that I really, really enjoy is that throughout the film, you want Jack London, Jack Lemmon, not Jack London. Jack London's an author. You want Jack Lemmon to have the girl. He loves her so much. He was willing to put himself through all this crap just to sit there and be with her. He even lost his job because he was like, you know what, this isn't worth it. Like, I'm not giving my apartment up, you know, to these guys anymore. It's like, you know, I love Fran and everything, and he was tired of the bull crap. And so when you have the New Year's event and you know, Fran is at the same little shady restaurant and everything, sitting in the same shady booth as always, in the shadows where no one can sit there and see them. You know, she finds out that he was let go, that he quit and everything, and that, you know, he wasn't going to do this, that, and the other. And she kind of realizes that she can do the same thing too. She doesn't have to be tied to Mr. Sheldrake. She does not have to sit there and deal with that crap. And so when she runs home, or not runs home, but when she runs back to the apartment where, you know, Jack Lemmon's Baxter character is kind of packing up, he's getting ready to move because he's lost his job, so he's got to go find somewhere else to work. The thing that I really, really, truly love about this film is its ending to that. Because when she finally gets there, she wants to be with him. She really does. And when they decide to finish their game of gin rummy, he does confess that he loves her. And when he asks her, do you love me too? Well, what about you? She just sits there and says, just cut the cards. And then they sit there and they get on with their game. They're going to go finish their game. And I like films that do that, where, you know, they don't give you all the answers towards the end. This film leaves it open of, well, do they get together, or are they just going to be close friends that have both gotten themselves out of a very, very bad situation? And um, yeah, a man that was alone, a man that doesn't like violence, a man who just likes to sit there and stay by himself, but would hopefully one day like to sit there and have someone to be with him, going through all of this trial and error. And none of it's boring at that point. Like, I will fucking flat out say, this is a film that, even though it's like a 2 hour and 7 minute runtime, I believe, which is very rare for that, it does not uh it does not sit there and feel like that. It does not. I'm actually trying to look at the runtime. Okay, so it's like 2 hours and 5 minutes. It doesn't feel like that. It's constantly keeping you engaged. It's constantly keeping you going, and I absolutely treasure these films. And this film right here, you'll find over and over again, so many quotable moments. Ring in the new year, ring in the old, ring a ding ding. Um, One of the ones that I truly actually really enjoy is, for one, it's just this moment when Baxter finds out that the woman he loves is the one that's having the affair with Mr. Sheldrake, because he can tell by the broken mirror thing. And when he finally looks at it, he sat there and says, "Oh, it's broken." And Shirley MacLaine's character is like, "Yeah, I like it like that. It reminds me of who I am." And that really speaks volume for something that was written in 1960, and to speak volume 60 years later, 60 plus years later. Um, Not gonna lie, it kind of really makes me want to sit there and go find a mirror and break it. And you know, it really makes me want to own a broken mirror just so I can look at it. You know, because I truly do think that in today's world there is a lot of broken people. It doesn't mean that, you know, we should be forgotten or abandoned or whatever. It's, we gotta, everyone's got their own shit to do. You know, we're all carrying our own grief, our own 10-pound boulder on our backs and everything. But that's a nice visual. And it's like, wow, just for the aesthetics, I would want that. Um, you can watch this for free on Tubi, by the way, in the US. If you're in the US, you can watch this on Tubi right now. Look up The Apartment, 1960, because if you look up the other one, I think it's 1998. It's a totally different movie, because I thought, it's like, did they remake a Billy Wilder film? They didn't, though. If you are looking for something post the holidays, though, that's actually from Billy Wilder that you want to see, that's like a good laugh and a comedy. Um, I'm trying to say, crap. Why did I forget the name? Because I sit there and see it. I'm trying to look for it. It is Some Like It Hot, which is a it's another Jack Lemmon film, and Jack Lemmon's amazing in that, as always. With Jamie Lee Curtis's dad, Tony Curtis. Both of them co-star in this, along with Marilyn Monroe and everything. That's a really, really fun, wonderful comedy and everything. And I kind of, I miss films like this. I really do. And it's funny that Billy Wilder came from the world of noir, because that's what he got his start in, was like these noirs. He wrote Ninochka. He started directing and writing his own stuff with Double Indemnity, um, Sunset Boulevard, Stalag 17 kind of was starting like to be his comedy thing. Sabrina, which was remade with Harrison Ford for the 90s, I believe. Um, and then you started getting Some Like It Hot, 7 Year Itch. And then you got like The Apartment, which I think The Apartment was kind of like his last good one, because some of the other ones afterwards, they were all right, but they didn't hit that stride. They did not hit what The Apartment did. Um, you know what? I'm actually a little bit fine that I went overtime. Uh, I don't think I'm going to give you guys, I don't even think I even have homework assigned. Actually, yeah, no, I didn't even sit there and assign homework and everything for you guys. It's like towards the holidays, but I mean, if you guys want homework, go see these movies. Tell me what you think. Or bring me an unconventional holiday film that you really enjoy. What is something that you like to watch during these holidays that maybe it's not Frosty the Snowman or Home Alone or A Christmas Story. Like, what are some other unconventional holiday films that you really enjoy that bring a smile to your face? Um, I do got to inform you guys though, right before we head off this Thursday, uh, on my Prime, bro. I know. um, Thursday we're gonna be doing intro in the Gothic cinema. Uh, I've been super anxious about this, but hopefully I've done like enough of the legwork that really all I gotta do for like the next couple of days in between editing and writing is just kind of help fill in the blanks to kind of inform you guys. But yeah, we're gonna sit there. We're gonna do an intro into Gothic cinema, and we're not talking about like a specific decade or anything by any chance. We're talking. We're gonna try to sit there and go as brief as possible to kind of get you guys in like informed. What is Gothic cinema? Um, I know a lot of you guys sit there and look at it as horrors, and I kind of look at the genre too as horror, but there are other films as well that do fit the Gothic genre. So I really probably should sit there and actually say it's the Gothic horror genre that what we're going to talk about. So we're going to look at the roots, we're going to look at the revivals, and we're going to sit there and see where does Gothic cinema stand in today's world. Thank you guys again so much again for being here. Thank you, Jessica Jones, for being here. Thank you, Steven, for being here. Thank you, Krypton. Thank you to all the lurkers. I appreciate you guys. I don't really know if it's etiquette to call out lurkers on YouTube. I don't really know. This is totally new to me. But you know what? Like I really do appreciate you guys so freaking much. I cannot wait for Thursday to talk about this. But if you're not going to be here for Thursday, but you want to come back for Monday, Monday is going to be the ending to our unconventional holiday films and everything. And since I did dramedies, I did the sappy stuff first. Let's get the sappy stuff out the way, the crying and all this other stuff, and the wonderful storytelling. There is another form of unconventional holiday films that I also really would like to tackle. So we're going to tackle the Christmas horror film. We're going to look at, where did that kind of start? We're going to sit there and see, we're going to sit there and see where it's at now because, yeah, Black Christmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night. I think we'll even add a little bit of the action stuff like Violent Night. If you haven't seen Violent Night, I swear to God, like I definitely even feel like when I called it Die Hard for like it's Die Hard, it's another Die Hard movie. Part of it definitely felt like I undersold that with just that statement alone because it's freaking wonderful and I absolutely treasure Violent Night and everything. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of it. Thank you guys again so much again for being here. And we will see you guys all on Thursday. Have a happy holiday. And I'll see you guys all until then.